Hey folks, about a year ago, a group of real-deal Italian chefs savagely critiqued some of the biggest carbonara videos on the internet, and as you may remember, my entry was not very well received. Since then, I've dreamt of nothing but redemption, so today we're going to take a crack at two different versions of carbonara, a real-deal old-school Italian version, and a more modern, less traditional version that's sure to piss them off. Let's get down to basics. Alright, so before we can make carbonara, we've got to make carbonara, which by definition is made with guanciale, a type of cured pork jowl. It is very delicious, but a little hard to find, so if you can't find it, you can sub with pancetta if you're in a pinch. I've got maybe a half pound here that I'm going to cut into relatively sizable chunks, and then set aside to make one of the essential elements of any carbonara dish, the egg slurry. Into a medium bowl or measuring cup goes 3 large eggs and 1 egg yolk for a little added richness. And then it's time to finely grate and measure out 4 ounces of cheese. Truly traditional carbonara uses 100% Pecorino Romano cheese, but is commonly balanced out with Parmigiano-Reggiano. If you want it a little less sharp and a little more nutty, I'm going for a 50-50 ratio, into which I'm going to dump our beaten eggs. We're then going to beat this whole affair together with a fork until homogeneous. The only other thing you're going to want to add is a whole lot of freshly ground black pepper. We're not adding any salt yet because guanciale can vary in saltiness and we don't want to oversalt our dish. Beat that together until well incorporated, and then it's time to head over to the stovetop where we are introducing the guanciale to a cold pan. We're then going to turn the heat to medium. This is going to cook the guanciale more slowly and allow more of its fat to render out, which in traditional carbonara is a good thing. Once it is fully cooked but not too crispy, we're going to kill the heat and put our pasta in the hot tub. The water is salato come il mare, or as salty as the sea, and we got to keep it moving to prevent it from sticking together. And then a cool trick to determine pasta's doneness is to take out a strand and eat it, see if it's done. Don't throw it against the wall, you friggin' weirdo. As you can see, our pork jowl has almost entirely stopped bubbling. That's exactly where we want it to be. And as soon as the pasta is done, we're dumping it directly into the saute pan with the guanciale. Once all the pasta has been added, we're going to toss it around in the pan, ensuring that it is evenly covered in all that guanciale fat. And you want to work quickly here because the only thing that's going to cook our egg slurry and make it smooth and creamy is the residual heat from the pasta. So waste no time getting the egg and cheese mixture in there and then agitate rigorously. This is going to help emulsify the sauce and keep it creamy and prevent it from curdling. If you find that it's not as smooth as you'd like, you can add a little bit of pasta water, like a 1/4 cup, but ideally it should look just like this. Now we're going to taste for seasoning. Mine needs a little bit of salt. Then you can optionally toss the pasta. This is going to help aerate it a little bit, get that sauce super creamy, and then finally it's time to plate up. I like to use a carving fork to twirl the pasta into a giant cylinder like this one for presentation on a long, narrow plate. We are then, of course, going to want to top this hedonistic helix with the remaining guanciale from the bottom of the pan, along with any remnants of that creamy sauce. And there you have it, folks. I'm going to say it one last time, carbonara, in its purest, most authentic and traditional form. Unless, of course, I got something wrong, in which case I'm in trouble. But at this point, I'm going to ask all Italians to leave the room because it's time to make carbonara. This starts very much the same way, with Parmesan and Romano cheese grated into a bowl, along with 3 eggs and 1 egg yolk, beaten together with a few healthy twists of freshly ground black pepper. Now, when most Americans make carbonara, they reach for the bacon. If you can't find guanciale or pancetta and you gotta use bacon, just go for the thick cut stuff, and likewise, we're going to slice about half a pound of it into big old chunks. Then, likewise, we're going to start these guys off in a cold pan because we want to render out as much fat as possible, but not for the same reason. You'll also notice that I'm using a non-stick pan. That's because in stainless, bacon can leave a lot of fond on the bottom of the pot, which for once we don't want, as it might make our final pasta look kind of dirty. Once the bacon is fully cooked and the fat rendered out, we are going to strain it, because this version of carbonara is going to have a much lighter sauce. We're just going to strain off all but about 2 tablespoons worth of bacon fat, which we're going to leave in the pan, and then we're going to return it over medium-low heat to add the most egregious ingredient of all, garlic. This is considered sacrilege in the world of carbonara, but I think it tastes really, really good, and so will you. We're just sauteing for 1 minute until fragrant before killing the heat. Next up, I see far too many people just dump pasta out of the box in the water, which inevitably leads to disaster. Give this a shot, where you dump the pasta into the palm of your hand and then pull it out, using your hand like a real gentleman. And as you can see, this time I'm going with Bucatini. Next up, just like last time, we're adding the pasta directly to the pan, but this time we're going to add about 1/3 cup of starchy pasta pasta water, which is going to help make a cohesive sauce. Then we are adding the egg and cheese mixture to the party, and if you find yourself in a pickle like this where your pan is too small to toss the pasta, no biggie, just dump it back into the emptied pasta pot. Just make sure that you keep it moving because there's a lot of residual heat in here, and we don't want to end up with pasta and scrambled eggs. So just wildly agitate that around, and then it's time to taste for seasoning. Add salt and pepper as necessary, and assess your sauce's thickness. If it's not quite thick enough, you can rescue it with a little bit of finely grated Parmesan. Just add maybe another quarter ounce or so and mix rigorously. And now it's time to plate up, and one thing you'll notice about this carbonara is that the sauce is much lighter because it has a lot less fat. It also stays creamier longer and won't congeal as quickly as carbonara. And the bucatini, while a little bit difficult to get on one's fork, is dense and chewy and lovely. Whichever version of carbonara you decide to make for yourself, I hope this has shown you how easy it can be so long as you follow a few simple tricks. Now go out there, get some pasta, and start rolling your R's.